Welcome to Echo 315, Study Session 13, Dividend Policy. Introduction. In the last study session, we considered the controversies about whether the firm's capital structure and leverage has effect on the value of the firm or not. In this study session, we examine similar controversies about whether the firm's dividend policy has effect on the value of the firm or not. Dividends are earnings that are distributed to shareholders. The percentage of earnings that the firm pay as dividend is the payout ratio. A high payout ratio means more dividends and few funds for expansion and growth, while a low payout results in a higher growth. Learning outcomes. When you have studied this session, you should be able to 1. Discuss the similarities and differences between stock, dividend, and stock split. 2. Explain stability of dividend policy and its variance. 3. Describe the factors that influence dividend policy. Stock dividend and stock split. A stock dividend is the issuance of additional shares of stock to shareholders. It may be declared when the cash position of the firm is inadequate or when a firm wishes to prompt more trading of its stock by reducing its market price. With a stock dividend, retained earnings decrease but paid up capital or ordinary shares increase by the same total amount. A stock dividend leads to no change in shareholders' wealth. Stock dividend increases the shares held, but the proportion of the company owned by each shareholder remains the same. A stock split, on the other hand, involves issuing a substantial amount of additional shares and reducing the par value of the stock on a proportional basis. It is often prompted by a desire to reduce the market price and make it easier for small investors to purchase shares. Similarities between stock dividend and stock split. Cash is not paid. Shares outstanding increase. Shareholders' equity remain the same. Differences between stock dividend and stock split. With a stock dividend, retained earnings are reduced and there is a pro rata distribution of shares to shareholders. A stock split increases the shares outstanding but does not lower retained earnings. The par value of stock remains the same with a stock dividend but is proportionally reduced in a stock split. Dividend policy and value of firms. Corporate earnings distributed to shareholders are called dividend. In theory, the objective of a dividend policy should be to maximize shareholders' return so that the value of their investment is maximized. Shareholders' returns consist of two components, dividend and capital gain. Dividend policy affects these two components of return. Investors do react to companies' dividend policy, and it impacts the financing program, capital budget, and cash flow position of the firm. On the relationship between dividend policy and the value of the firm, different theories have been advanced. These theories can be grouped into those that consider dividend decision to be irrelevant and those that consider it as an active variable that influences the value of the firm. Dividend relevance. Walter's model. Walther argues that the choice of dividend policies almost always affect the value of the firm. It shows the importance of the relationship between the firm's rate of return and its cost of capital in determining the dividend policy that will maximize the wealth of shareholders. This theory is based on the assumption of internal financing, constant return, constant cost of capital, 100% retention or 100% payout. Its formula for determining the market price per share is as follows. P equals DIV divided by K plus R times, open a bracket, EPS minus DIV bracket close times K, which equals DIV plus bracket open R divided by K bracket close times EPS minus DIV in bracket, all in bracket, times K. For growth firm with ample investment opportunities that yield higher returns than opportunity cost of capital, that is R greater than K, they will maximize the value per share if they follow a policy of retaining all earnings for internal investment. For declining firms that do not have any profitable investment opportunities, earning on investment will be less than the cost of capital, that is R is less than K. The market value per share will maximize when the company retains all earnings. For normal company that is earning normal return on investment, earning on investment will be equal to the cost of capital, R equals K. The dividend policy has no effect on the market per share. Dividend relevance. Godson model. This is a popular model that explicitly relates the market value of the firm to the dividend policy. The model is based on the assumption of all equity firm, no external financing, constant return, constant cost of capital, perpetual earnings, constant retentions, cost of capital is greater than growth rate. Under this model, the market value of a share is equal to the present value of an infinite stream of dividend to be received by the shareholders. However, the dividend per share is equal to the payout ratio times earnings. That is, dividend equals, open a bracket, 1 minus B bracket close times EPS, where B is the fractions of earning retained. The retained earnings are assumed to be reinvested within the all equity firm at a rate of return R. This allows earnings to grow at the rate of G equals BR per period. The equation that relates market value per share P to EPS, dividend policy, internal profitability, and the cost of capital K in Godson model is as follows. P naught equals EPS times, open bracket, 1 minus B bracket close, bracket open again, K minus BR bracket close. Conclusion. Like Walther's model, for growth firms R greater than K, the value of shares will increase as the retention ratio B increases. Thus, such a firm should pursue a policy of zero dividend payout. For declining firm, where R is less than K, the value of share will increase as the payout ratio increases. For normal firm, where R equals K, the market value of the share is not affected by dividend policy. Model and uncertainty. The bird in hand argument. The conclusion of Gordon for normal firm is reversed under uncertainty. According to Gordon, uncertainty increases with futurity. That is, the further one looks into the future, the more uncertain dividend becomes. Thus, the profit discount rate also increases with uncertainty. Investors prefer to avoid uncertainty and will be willing to pay higher price for the same share that pays the greater dividend currently, all other things held constant. Dividend irrelevance. Modigliani and Miller's hypothesis. According to Modigliani and Miller, under a perfect market situation, the dividend policy of a firm is irrelevant as it does not affect the value of the firm. Other assumptions of their model are no taxes, no risk, and given investment policy. A firm operating in perfect capital market conditions may face one of the following three situations regarding the payment of dividend. 1. The firm has sufficient cash to pay dividend. 2. The firm does not have sufficient cash to pay dividend and therefore it issues new shares to finance the payment of dividend. 3. The firm does not pay dividend but a shareholder needs cash. In the first situation, when the firms pay dividend, shareholders get cash in hand, but the firm's assets reduce as its cash balance declines. What shareholders gain in the form of cash dividend, they lose in the form of their claim on the reduced assets. Thus, there is transfer of wealth from shareholders one pocket to the other. There is no net gain or net loss. This is a fair transaction under the perfect capital market condition. The value of the firm will remain unaffected. In the second situation, when the firm issues new shares to finance the payment of dividend, two transactions take place. First, the existing shareholders get cash in the form of dividend, but they suffer an equal amount of capital loss since the value of their claim on asset reduces. Thus, the wealth of shareholders does not change. Second, the new shareholders part with their cash to the company in exchange for new shares at a fair price per share. The fair price per share is share price before the payment of dividends less dividend per share to the existing shareholders. The existing shareholders transfer a part of their claim to the new shareholders in exchange for cash. There is no net gain or loss. Both transactions are fair, and thus the value of the firm will remain unaltered after these transactions. In the third situation, if the firm does not pay any dividend, a shareholder can create a homemade dividend by selling a part of his or her shares at the market price in the capital market for obtaining cash. The shareholder will have less number of shares. He has exchanged a part of his claim on the firm to a new shareholder for cash. The net effect is the same as in the case of the second situation. Transaction is a fair transaction and no losses or gains. The value of the firm remains the same before and after these transactions. Stability of dividend policy. Stability or regularity of dividend is considered a desirable policy by the management of most companies in practice. Shareholders also seem generally to favor this policy and value stable dividends higher than the fluctuating ones. Stable dividend per share policy. Many companies use a stable dividend per share policy because investors consider such a company to be of low risk. Even in a year that the company shows a loss rather than profit, the dividend is maintained to avoid negative connotation to current and prospective investors. By continuing to pay dividend, the shareholders are more likely to view the loss as temporal. Some shareholders rely on the receipt of stable dividend for income. Constant dividend payout ratio policy. A company that adopts this policy pays a constant percentage of earnings as dividend. The actual dividend will vary because net income varies. The problem of this policy is that if a company's earning drops drastically or there is a loss, the dividend paid will be greatly reduced or non-existent. This policy would not maximize market price per share since most shareholders do not want variability in their dividend receipt. Constant dividend per share plus extra dividend. A compromise between the policies of a stable Naira amount and a percentage amount of dividend is for a company to pay a low Naira amount per share plus a percentage increment in good years. While this policy affords flexibility, it creates uncertainty in the minds of investors as to the amount of dividend they are likely to receive. Residual dividend policy. When a company's investment opportunities are not stable, management may want to consider a fluctuating dividend policy. With this kind of policy, the amount of earnings retained depends upon the availability of investment opportunities in a particular year. Dividend paid represent the residual amount from earnings after the company's investment needs are fulfilled. Factors that influence dividend policy. Company growth rate. A rapidly growing company may have to restrict its dividend payment in order to keep needed funds within the company for growth opportunities. Restrictive covenants. Sometimes there is a restriction in a credit agreement that will limit the amount of cash dividend that may be paid. Profitability. The company's distribution of dividend depends to a large extent on the available amount of distributable earnings. Earnings stability. A company with stable earnings is more likely to distribute a higher percentage of its earnings than one with unstable earnings. Maintenance of control. Management that is reluctant to issue additional ordinary shares to avoid dilution will retain a greater percentage of earnings and thus pay a low percentage as dividend. Degree of financial leverage. A company with a high debt equity ratio is more likely to retain earnings so that it will have the needed fund to meet interest payments and debt at maturity. Access to external finance. A company that is capable of entering the capital market easily can afford to have a higher dividend payout ratio. When there is a limitation to external sources of fund, more earnings will be retained. Summary. In this study session, you learned that a stock dividend is the issuance of additional shares of stock to shareholders, while a stock split involves issuing a substantial amount of additional shares and reducing the par value of the stock on a proportional basis. In theory, The objective of a dividend policy should be to maximize shareholders' return. Walther argues that the choice of dividend policies almost always affect the value of the firm. Goldstein explicitly relates the market value of the firm to dividend policy. According to Modigliani and Miner, under a perfect market situation, the dividend policy of a firm is irrelevant as it does not affect the value of the firm. This is the end of study session 13. Thanks for listening.